doing this question is not because of question A, it's really because of question B. All right. So I think that all of you should be able to do part A on your own. And then part B is the bit that we're going to do together. But let's just read it. So it tells us that Irene deposits 1,700 Rand into a savings account. At the end of each month thereafter, she deposits 1,700 Rand into the account and continues to do this for 10 years. Interest is 8% per annum, compounded monthly. Calculate the future value of her investment at the end of the 10-year period. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. You guys go ahead and go and do that. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. You can put your answers into the chat, and then we'll talk about what's going to happen in part B. Okay. So as soon as you've got an answer, you're welcome to share it in the chat. Okay, Kaiser, you've got an answer already. Good job. Anyone else got an answer yet? Okay, so Tinyiko, you are agreeing with Kaiser. You're saying the answer is 314,000. 781. I'm just looking what I wrote here, and 65 cents. That's what I got when I did this question. Okay, Modern Khoa, you got a different answer. Okay, Modern Khoa, how is what you've written different to what I have on the screen?
I think it's my calculator because I did the same way.
Oh, really?
Yes, ma'am.
That's interesting. Okay, well, I don't know what happened there. You know what sometimes happens though, Modern Core, is sometimes we press something funny on the calculator and we don't even realize that we've done it. So it could possibly be that. All right, that would be my guess in this particular case. All right. Is everybody all right with the idea that there were 121 payments of 1,700 Rand? Does that make sense to everybody that it was 121 payments and not 120 payments? Yes, Michelle, right answer. Okay, so again, they're implying here that she's depositing this money at the end of every single month, but there was this initial deposit that was made immediately at the beginning of 1,700 Rand. Okay, all right. Now, it tells us that she leaves the accumulated amount in the account for a further 6 months without making any further payments of 1,700 Rand. If the interest rate changes to 10% per annum compounded half yearly, calculate the value of her investment after the further 6 months. Okay, so now what is important here is that the monthly payments of 1,700 Rand have stopped. So if those monthly payments of 1,700 Rand have stopped, can we use the future value formula to answer question B? That's my question to you guys. Can we use future value to calculate the answer for question B if her payments have stopped? What do you guys say? Okay, so everybody is saying no so far, 100%. That's right. Boutle, 100%. Because the payments have stopped and the money is now sitting in the account, there are no more payments. It has to grow using compound interest. Okay, absolutely. So what you could do is you could take this formula and multiply it by a bracket, or if you wanted to, you could take this answer and you can multiply it by a bracket. So in other words here, what you're really doing is you're calculating A, you're not calculating future value, and we can take, because remember this is rounded off here, so I suppose it would be more correct for us to take what we have in our future value formula, although I suppose this is a bit more writing, isn't it? Either way, it doesn't really matter. Over 0,08 over 12. And what we can do here is we can then multiply that. So that is basically like our p-value, all right? In A equals P1 plus I to the power of N. So this bracket over here, well, this bit over here, our future value, basically functions as our P now. And then we've got our bracket, 1 plus our interest rate changes, and it's changed to how much in this case? Let's go and have a look. I think it was 10% per annum. Okay, so the interest rate is now different. It's now 10% per annum, compounded monthly. So that would be 0,10 compounded month, sorry, not compounded monthly, compounded half yearly, beg your pardon, see there, compounded half yearly. So that would be over 2. And how long is it going to be in the account? It's going to be in the account for a period of 6 months. So what is going to be the exponent on this bracket? Can anybody tell me what is going to be the exponent on the bracket? The interest is compounded half yearly, and the money is left in the account for 6 months. So what is the exponent on the bracket? Okay, well, one of you has said the correct answer, but I'm not going to say who. Okay, so Tiniko Morongoa, why 2? Boitshepo, why 1? Boitshepo's one of it. Boitshepo, go for it. Why 1?
Bochebo, you can unmute yourself.
Okay, because it is already in months. You're quite right. Okay, absolutely, it is already in months. So Taniko says we're only paying once in that half year, being 6 months. So that means 2 times 1. But then doesn't it mean, Taniko, what is the value? What does N represent? in the compound interest formula? What does N represent? So we know in future value, N is the number of payments. But in compound interest, what is N? Is it the number of payments? Oh, it's the number of years. But hang on a second, hang on a second, hang on a second. Okay, if it's the number of years, then, for example, now let's go back to our previous lessons. Okay, do you remember when we went back here? This is where we started. Okay, so this was a question that we did together. All right, so here's 65,000 Rand. It was paid into a savings account, paying 15% per annum compounded monthly. He wants to buy a car in 3 years' time. So we had to calculate how much money Craig had in 3 years' time. So why are we multiplying this to 12 times 3 then? Because it's not, there aren't 36 years in 3 years, are there? Why did we have 36 here? Why didn't we have 3? Okay, but why was it 12 times 3? N is the number of payments. When we are talking about, let's go back to the lesson that we're on now. Okay, so this is really, really, really important. It's something where a lot of people get stuck. Okay, so if you look at your future value formula and you compare it to your compound interest, here in future value, N is the number of payments. So this N over here is number of payments. Here, N is not the number of payments, okay? It is not the number of payments, because remember, we're not making regular payments when we're working with compound interest. We're using compound interest when our payments have stopped. So N is not the number of payments. N in compound interest represents the number of times the interest is compounded in the period. Okay, so it is the number of times the interest is compounded in the investment period. Okay, so like with Craig at the beginning, he saved money. It was compounded annually, and it was compounded monthly for a period of 3 years. So that's why we said 12 times 3, because it was compounded 36 times in 3 years. All right. So what this means for us here is that if the money is in the account for 6 months and it's compounded half yearly, it would have been compounded once in 6 months. Okay, so everybody who said that the value of N here had to be 1, you are correct. Okay, how do you feel? Does that make sense to everybody? Cool, Kaiser. Oh, shame, Ganesile. No problem. There's a couple of you who want me to do that. It's not a problem at all. Okay. So the difference comes in now is understanding what the N in the formulae mean. Okay, so let's just go down to the bottom here. And yeah, create some new space. Okay, so we have compound interest. Okay, so now let's just make up a scenario. Let's pretend that we deposit 1,000 Rand into an account. Okay, it's a once-off thing. And the interest rate is 10% per annum, but it is compounded monthly. Let's say we decide to leave the money in the account for 2 years. What do we do in this situation? Okay, if we want to work out how much money we're going to have in 2 years' time, we're going to say it's the 1,000 Rand in the account. It's going to grow at an interest rate of 10% per annum, compounded monthly. Then do you remember, whatever we have divided our I by, we have to multiply our N by. So here we go 12 times 2. Why are we doing this? Why am I saying 12 times 2 over here? Okay, 12 times 2 is not the number of payments, is it? In this situation here, N is not the number of payments. There's only been one payment. Okay, there's only been one deposit of 1,000 Rand. N does not represent the number of payments in compound interest. Okay, so it represents the number of times that the interest is compounded in the investment period. So in this case, the interest is compounded 24 times in 2 years. Okay, because it happens once a month. Okay, isn't it interesting how this is where we started, and now the things that we were doing in grade 11, we're now like, hang on, what's going on there? But meanwhile, this is something that we always understood before. Okay, all right, so think about it like that. Like, pretend that you don't even know about future value. All right, and you're going back to grade 11. Right, and then you would work out what the answer is, Okay, now compare that, right, to the scenario we're discussing now. Now we're saying that somebody pays 1,000 Rand every month for 2 years. Okay, not just one deposit of 1,000 Rand, but every month for 2 years at the end of the month. Okay, every month at month end for 2 years. Again, let's say the interest is 10% per annum, compounded monthly. Okay, you're going to have a lot more money in scenario number 2 than you would have in scenario number 1, because in scenario number 1, you've only put 1,000 Rand in and you've left it, and you've just let interest work on that money for 2 years. Whereas in the second scenario, you are depositing 1,000 Rand every single month. So here we have to use future value, because 1,000 Rand is being deposited every month. All right. The interest rate is 10% per annum, compounded monthly. Now N represents the number of payments that we make. So if we deposit 1,000 Rand a month, for every month for 2 years, we are going to make 24 payments. Okay. Or if I said that I deposited 1,000 Rand immediately, let's change it. If I deposit 1,000 Rand immediately and continue to do so at the end of every month for 2 years, then is N still going to be equal to 24? Okay, no, it's not. It's now going to be equal to 25. Exactly, if I made an immediate payment. Okay, so can you see the difference? N in future value does not mean the same thing as N in compound interest. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, 0.1 over 12, and then again we could work out what our answer is. Okay, so it's very, very important that you guys understand that. Okay, makes more sense now. Can you see that? I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Sometimes we need to be reminded of our simple knowledge when we're learning these new things as well, so that we don't become confused with concepts that we've learned. Okay. All right. So now that we've come back here, does it make sense to you? All right. So because this N is not the number of payments, it's the number of times that the interest is compounded in the period. So in other words, if Irene leaves the money in the account for 1.5 years, and the interest is compounded half yearly, it's going to be compounded once in that time. And that's why the exponent on the second bracket has to be 1. Okay. And of course, you would go ahead and go and pop all of that into your calculator. And I don't know about you guys, but when I did this earlier, I got an answer of 330,520 Rand and 73 cents. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad. Okay. Yeah, what did you guys get? Same. Okay, cool.
Same. Amazing.
Cool.
Oh,
Nice. Well done. Okay, we're ready to move on. Yeah, nice work. I quite agree. Okay, so let's have a look at this one. And as I say, each of these questions are a little bit different from the one before. That's why I wanted us to do all of them. Right, so let's read this one. So it says here, in order to supplement his pension after retirement, Mpho, age 20, takes out a retirement annuity. He makes monthly payments of 2,000 Rand into the fund, and the payments start immediately. The payments are made in advance, which means that the last payment of 2,000 Rand is made 1 month before the annuity pays out. The interest rate for the annuity is 15% per annum compounded monthly. Calculate the future value of the annuity when Mpho turns 60. All right, so again, when we read a question like this, we have to ask ourselves, first of all, what formula are we going to use? All right, so because it's Mpho saving money, it's for a retirement annuity, and there are regular payments of 2,000 Rand that are going in every single month, those are the clues that we need to use, future value. Okay, they want us to calculate the future value, 100% brute. They want us to calculate the future value of his annuity. And we know that he is depositing 2,000 Rand every single month. Okay, so that gives us a place to start. So the future value of Mpho's investment, when he invests 2,000 Rand a month, at 15% per annum compounded monthly. Now, again, we have the task where we need to work out how many payments Mpho has made. Now, be careful here, because these payments are not like the ones that we saw in our last lesson, okay? These payments are made in advance. Okay, so in other words, they are made at the beginning of the month and not at the end of the month. So what is going to happen here? He starts when he is 20 and he makes the last payment when he is 60 years old. So how many payments has Mpho made? How are we going to calculate the value of N? Okay. All right. So Kaiser, what I want to know is why are you adding 2? Why are you adding 2? Okay, so again, you see now this is the part that is so, this is what we were struggling with the last time. I don't know if you remember the question that we ended off last time. This question is very, very similar to that one. All right. So even though he has started immediately, right? He starts on his 20th birthday and he makes his last payment on his 60th birthday. So that means that he has made 40 years worth of payments, right? And 1 payment every single month, which is 480. The difference is that he has started here at T0. This is his first payment of 2,000 Rand. Okay, over here at 479, this is his last and 480th payment of 2,000 Rand. So yes, he has made 480 payments. But this is not the only thing that happens to the money, because the money stays in the account, all right, and it earns interest for 1 month before it pays out. That's this month over here. That's where it's earning interest from T479 to T480. That is where the money is sitting in the account and it's earning interest. Remember, he's made his payments at the beginning of the month. So that 2,000 Rand is earning interest together with all the rest of the money for another month. Okay, so that means that we now need to multiply. This becomes our p-value. And we now need to multiply. Let me just get rid of this. Over here. And does the interest rate change? Okay, no, it's still going to be 15% per annum compounded monthly. Because it is compounded monthly and it is in there for 1 month, the exponent here is going to be 1. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Right, and then we would pop that into our calculator. Let me just write down what I got. Okay, so Paul is a very wise man, because look what he ends up with: 62,807,510 Rand and 92 cents. So the moral of the story is, Matrix, as soon as you can, you start saving for your retirement one day, okay? Because like in Paul, look how much money you can have when you turn 60. Then you don't have to work until you're 65, and you can enjoy all of that money when you get older. Okay, yes, Kulani, I got exactly the same answer. Okay, is this making sense to everybody? How do you feel? You can give us some emojis. Good, 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 good. Nice. Oh, cool. Oh, but Sheila, I like that, your little hug. That's cool. Nice. Good stuff. Yeah, with SharePoint, it's a difficult thing to understand, right? So what's happening here with SharePoint is he makes an immediate payment of 2,000 Rand. That is this payment that goes in here at T0. He then continues to make payments at the beginning of every single month, all right, for the next 40 years. So if I start counting at 0 and I end at 479, I have made 480 payments, haven't I? Okay, because I'm starting to count at 0. I'm not starting to count at 1. I'm starting to count at 0. Right, so that's why it's 480. He makes 480 payments. He starts at T0. There isn't an extra payment, and the money is staying in the account for an extra month and earning interest. Okay, so we started counting at T0, and if we make 480 payments, it means our last payment will be made at T479. Okay, Bocello? Bocello. Okay, no problem. Okay, this is something that I do want to come back to because I want to show you what happens when we miss payments. But what I'd like to do is just jump forward to this question, and then I will happily come back to that one, okay? And the reason that I want to do this is because here they are asking us to calculate the number of payments that are going to be made. So this question says 500 Rand is invested every month, starting in 1 month's time, into an account paying 16% per annum, compounded monthly. The fund accumulates to 10,000 Rand. How many payments of 500 Rand will be made? Okay, so what letter in the formula are they asking us to calculate? Exactly, they want us to calculate N, the number of payments. Okay, so remember, in future value, N represents the number of payments. So in this case here, our 10,000 Rand is going to be our future value. When 500 Rand is deposited every month. Interest is earned at 16% per annum, compounded monthly. We need to calculate how many payments of 500 Rand are going to be made. Okay, and we sub accordingly into our future value formula. Okay, so when the question says how many payments, we are calculating N. If it says what is the payment, we are calculating X. If it asks us for the future value, we are calculating F. Okay, so they can ask us to work out F or X or N. All right, I mean, theoretically, they could ask us to work out I as well, but that doesn't seem to be something that does get asked. Okay, so now they want us to calculate the value of an exponent. So this now essentially becomes an exponential equation. Right, what we need to do is we need to isolate the base, okay? That bracket becomes our base. Now, this goes back to our lesson on using logs. Do you remember we used logs to determine N? All right, so if they ask us to calculate the number of payments, it's actually an instruction for us to use logs. Okay, now all you've got to know how to do here is how to correctly undo the formula in order to be able to isolate the base. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do, Matrix, is you want to cross multiply. Okay, so in other words, you are going to multiply your future value. That's this 10,000 Rand over here. You're going to cross multiply it with your interest rate. Once you've cross multiplied, you are going to divide by 500. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so essentially what we've got here is 10,000 multiplied by 0.16 over 12 divided by 500. And that is going to give us, I'm going to work out what 1 plus 0.16 over 12 is, just to make life easier for us. Okay, so we don't want to round that off. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the base as an improper fraction because I cannot round off. Okay, to the power of n minus 1. Okay, and now what I want to do, matrix, is I want to take that 1 over to the other side. Okay, so this is going to be our number. So we've got our 10,000 multiplied by 0.16 over 12 divided by 500 plus 1. Okay, is going to be equal to 76 over 75 to the power of n. Let's just move this down. Even when I think I've given myself enough space, it's never enough space. Okay, so let's work out what that number is. Don't forget you must divide it by 500 first, hey, and then add 1. Okay, what are you getting as your number, everybody? Oh, wow, you've already got an answer. You guys are so speedy. Okay, so I'm getting as our number over here, I'm getting 19 over 15 is equal to 76 over 75 to the n. And now I'm going to use logs. Log base number. And let's check if I get the same as you. 75 and here 19. 19 over 15. Agreed. Okay, so I saw a lot of you had written this down. So 17,847 ... Okay, years, months, what is this? Okay. Okay, is our answer in years or is it months? Okay. Yeah, I agree. I also think it's months. Okay, so remember 500 Rand is being invested every month. Okay, so how many payments of 500 Rand will be made? All right, it's going to be 17.847. Okay, so how many payments of 500 Rand will be made? So in this case, all right, if we make 17 payments, Kashandra, are we going to have enough money? Are we going to have 10,000 Rand? Can we check that? And if so, how? How would we check that? Okay, so exactly, Buhle, 100%. Okay, so I subbed 17 back in. And when you sub 17 back in, you don't get 10,000. Okay, you get 9,470. Okay, so if you sub in, if you say 17, then it's going to be too few. Okay, this person is not going to have 10,000 Rand. Okay, they're going to be short. All right, so in this case, we're going to have to round it off to 18 payments. They're going to have more than 10,000 Rand in there, but they wanted 10,000. Okay, so there would have to be 18 payments. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? Okay, Moronghoa, if you made 17 payments of 500 Rand, you'd only have 9,470 Rand in the account. Okay, so you'd have to make 18 payments in order to get your minimum of 10,000. Okay, fine, there'll be a little bit more money in there, but there would have to be 18 payments, not 17. Okay, does it make sense? Cool. Okay, oh, I'm glad to hear that. Do you guys want to, oh, I'm so glad, Oratile, that's great. That's really awesome. Do you guys want to practice one of these on your own? Because I've got one for you to practice if you'd like. Yes, please. Okay. Cool. All right, there we go. You guys can practice that one. Cool beans. I love your enthusiasm. Well done, everybody. You make working here at Watobe such an absolute pleasure.
I'm about to post the link to the quiz in the chat. Remember, it's a no stress or no quiz, so you don't have to worry too much if you're not okay with this concept. Remember, all of these are recorded, and you can always go back and watch it a little bit slower and try and understand. And then you can do the quiz. You can do the quiz as many times as you want to, as many times as you need to.
Okay, so Kelebogile, this is the age-old question. All right, so when payments are being made, oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, when the interest rate is compounded half yearly, you're going to divide the interest rate by 2. Okay, it's very easy to get confused. Okay, because there are 2 half years in a year. Okay. Okay, so Kaiser, you've got 36.81. Kalani has got 20. So, did you round that off, Kulani? Moronghoa got 21. Okay. Chihuahua got 21. Okay, so what I'm interested to know is and it says to us here that 2,000 Rand is immediately deposited into a savings account. So under sort of normal circumstances, when we say that there's an immediate deposit, that means that there has been one at T0. Okay, so we would generally, if there was then a payment made every single month thereafter, we would say we're going to work out the number of payments and then we're going to add one, right? Isn't that what normally happens when there's an immediate deposit? So 6 months later and every 6 months thereafter, 2,000 Rand is deposited into the account, okay? The interest rate is 18% per annum compounded half yearly. The future value of the savings is 100,000 Rand. How many payments of 2,000 will be made? So what I would do here, and I don't know if you guys did the same, but what I would do in this regard is I would say that my 100,000 Rand is my future value. My 2,000 Rand is my X. 1 plus my interest rate in this case is 16% per annum, compounded half yearly. So I'm going to divide that by 2. And now I want to calculate the number of payments. But because there was this payment that was made immediately, there is one extra payment. Who did that? Who said n plus 1? Okay, you did. Ah, good. Nice. Some of you are thinking. That's wonderful. Okay, because there was that immediate extra payment, it would have to be n plus 1. See, it's a sneaky question, isn't it? Okay, over our interest. Yeah?
Don't we also multiply the n by 2, or we don't?
No, because this, remember, in this formula over here, we're not working with compound interest. We're working with future value. Okay, so it's not the number of times that the interest was compounded. It's the number of payments that are made.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fairly common mistake, Naliswa, with a lot of matric students. Yeah. Okay, all right, so because there was that immediate deposit, we need to remember we got to add 1 to whatever our n was. Okay, so now same story as before. You're going to cross multiply, divide, make the bracket the subject to the formula. So when we do that, we end up 100,000 times 6, 2 divided by 2,000 plus 1. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting, my number is 5. Are you guys getting that as well? So I get 5 is equal to, and then here, that's 1 comma, what did I write down? 1,08 to the n plus 1. Okay, so that means that n plus 1 equals log base number. Okay, so n plus 1 equals okay, so that gives us 20,912 blah, 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 blah. And of course, when we take that, see, I never have enough room, do I? And now when we take that 1 over to the other side, we are going to subtract. So that gives us n is equal to 19,91 payments. Okay. Oh, so that's how you got N was 20. Yes, that's what I thought that you did. Okay, so yes, absolutely. Because if we made 19 payments of 2,000 Rand, we could go back and we could work it out. I think we would be short in this case. We can go in and just double check that, what happens. So 2,000. So I'm just going back and I'm subbing back the 19, just so that we can see what we'd get if we made 19 payments. You guys can do the same. 19 payments over 6 over 2. Yeah, we're short with 19 payments. Okay, we don't get our 100,000 Rand. Okay, so it would be correct to run. Yeah, very sneaky. Hey, very, very, very sneaky.